welcome to I'm Not Crazy. I'm your host, Cameron Jones, with my co-host,
Nicole DeAnda.
And I'm Not Crazy, we're going to be taking a sensible look at the supernatural, the unexplainable, and the all-around weird. Basically, I've divin into a lot of conspiracy podcasts and just things in my day. You know, the non-harmful conspiracy theories, your Loch Ness Monsters, your JFKs, things of that nature. And this is my outlet to bombard my fiance with these ideas.
Great. Can't wait.
So, episode 1, starting a big topic here. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is an ape-like creature that is said to inhabit the forests of North America. There are legends of tall, hairy men and ape-like creatures in the Great Plains and swamplands of the U.S. also, but it's primarily, tall trees northwest of the United States. So first off, do you believe in Sasquatch?
Do I believe in the Sam Squanch?
Yes.
No.
You do not?
I don't think so, no.
Now, this is going to be interesting for the podcast then, because as far as the cryptid creatures go, this seems like the most believable, and I don't know, just it has the most evidence. It seems the most believable to me.
I don't think so, but I just think, we'll get to it, but it's just hard for me to believe that there's these 6 or maybe 7 foot massive beings are like creatures, humanoids, something along those lines that are just thriving in the mountainous regions, the forests.
And thriving are they ever? They're living their best lives, and we're going to get into it in this episode. Later on, I'd like to break down some of the maybe like more niche topics of these larger topics, but for now, we're just going to do an overview of Bigfoot. So, there are other similar species. You may have obviously heard of the Yeti in Asia, but also in Asia, there's the Yeren and the Almas. So we also have in the United States, though, have you ever heard of the skunk ape?
No. Assuming it stinks and smells like a skunk?
Nailed it. Cool. So this is coming to us from the swamplands of Florida and Louisiana. It's just it's a Bigfoot that lives in the swamps and smells like a skunk. We might get into that in a later episode, but already there's compelling evidence maybe that there's different species around the world. So that does nothing for you, huh?
No, not really.
Okay.
Convince me. Tell me that you are not crazy.
Well, we're going to start now with the 2 big incidences that really put Bigfoot on the map. More so like the name. So the name Bigfoot, the origin was popularized in 1958 when Jerry Crew, a bulldozer operator for a logging company in Humboldt County, California, discovered some large set of human-like footprints set deep within the mud of the Six Rivers National Forest in California.
Okay.
So he told his coworkers about the prints, and then the others also claimed to have seen similar prints in the area and just other kind of strange things around there. So apart from the tracks, there was also the incident of the oil drum. This was just a giant oil drum that was on the camp for the machinery, but it weighed about 450 pounds, and it would mysteriously move around the campsite overnight when people weren't looking. So they just started referring to any mysterious kind of gremlin situation as the Bigfoot. Like, oh, the Bigfoot did it.
What if it was someone just like late at night, just like fucking with them?
It's a 450-pound barrel, though. That's quite the I'm just messing with you joke.
Well, if it's a site, I'm assuming there's heavy machinery. What if they're
That's true.
slowly? I not depicting what kind of person I am. I think it'd be pretty fucking funny to be like late at night, just like slowly moving this oil barrel drum.
Okay.
And then having everyone talk about it and just
I feel like there'd
be
be machinery
fuck you
teeth
up.
marks, something like that on the oil drum, though. Noi? What do you say to this?
There was or there wasn't?
I feel like it would if you were using heavy machinery. It'd be hard to do. I'll say that much. Not infeasible, but hard.
What if it's like a crane where they like strap something on there and then they just lift it and maneuver it that way?
I guess
I don't know how. Assuming that they had similar machinery that we do nowadays.
I'm also assuming in this that everyone's in on it, probably under this conspiracy that you're holding.
Probably.
Okay. So how this spread the Bigfoot rumor from just these logging people up in like the Northwest, journalist Andrew Gonzalez of the Humboldt Times received a letter from a reader who had heard about the odd experiences with the lodgers up north in California, but he had not experienced it himself. He had just heard of these urban legends and stories. So this guy wrote down just like the depiction of these Bigfoot prints and the oil drum moving around.
That's how it all starts.
This is how it starts. Gonzalez writes, maybe we have a relative of the abominable snowman of the Himalayas in his column alongside the letter from the reader with the Bigfoot. And it is believed that in 1958, this article is what gave us the name from Sasquatch, Bigfoot. The other main piece of evidence that kind of gives everyone the image they think of today as Bigfoot is the Patterson-Gimlin film. Have you heard of the Patterson-Gimlin film?
I have not heard of the Patterson-Gimlin film.
You have not heard of it, but you have seen it. Anything you've seen of Sasquatch, have you seen the footage of Sasquatch walking through the woods and turning to look around?
I feel like everyone has.
That is the Patterson-Gimlin film.
That or like the still image of...
Which is taken from the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Okay.
That image you see of him like turning to look around is a frame of like roughly, we'll get to it in a second. So the story of these two men.
Yep.
So Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson, they're two former rodeo men who shot the footage while...
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
What the rodeo? What's
Yeah.
the problem with being rodeo men?
Nothing.
It's a respectable trade.
Just continue. I imagine a lot of drugs and a lot of weird things, but go ahead.
They're horseback men. They're cowboys. They're rodeo
drinkers,
men.
yeah. I mean, go ahead, carry on.
So these two men were riding horseback on the banks of the Bluff Creek in Northern California on October 20th, 1967. Just a leisure thing, nothing for work. They were just riding horseback up in the mountains.
Love it.
So they were rounding a corner when the creature came into view behind like a thicket of trees. Their horses immediately got frightened and began to rear. Patterson figures he spent about 20 seconds getting off his horse, calming it, and reaching for his camera and getting all this stuff before the filming began. So they round the corner, horses freak out, the Bigfoot starts walking away from them, and it's about a 20-second gap from there, from him getting off his horse and then getting his camera.
So we're talking about Patterson, or are we talking about Gimlin right now, who got off his horse?
Oh, we're talking about Patterson, who says it took about 20 seconds to get off the horse, comment, and grab his camera, calling over to Gimlin, "Cover me!" meaning for him to cover him with their rifles, which they always carried with them in the woods. So Patterson claimed to be 25 feet away from it at its closest, while Gimlin continued on horseback, keeping at a distance between 60 to 90 feet before he also dismounted with his rifle in hand, claiming to never point it at what later got named Patty, the Bigfoot. It's a lady. It has boobs. We'll take a look at the video in a second.
Really?
It's believed to be a lady Bigfoot. So the Bigfoot was walking away from when it crossed the paths, so they had to give chase to it, which is why at the beginning of the footage it looks a little jumpy, because they had to chase the Bigfoot initially to get back in view for the filming. And at the iconic point when Patty turns it around, Patterson said it was a look of contempt and disgust. Which you can imagine, because he's just chasing it through the woods, and it's like, oh, man.
Oh, what is this hairless thing chasing after me?
So let's take a quick pause. I'm going to show you the video, and we'll pop back in. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay, you've had a second to look at the footage now. What do you think after looking at it? Does it help the believability, or does it disprove it for you?
I'm still not a believer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did it look like a costume to you? We did study it, the anatomy. Did you think it had boobies?
Well, besides the fact that you looked at it, stopped, and you're like, tits.
We did stop to circle what we thought were the mounds of breast, I believe.
You just stopped and you just pointed and you're like, tits. It looks costumish to me.
Okay.
But then I've also seen images of bears walking upright on two legs. Yes. And it also, I mean, I can't say it has a similar stride, but
that is the other big thing that is under contention is the walk. Did the walk look human-like? Do you think the joints were moving at the right points from your unprofessional opinion?
I'm not a professional, but it looks like me when I get up in the morning, just kind of
okay,
gremlin looking with my walk. But
so
yeah,
human-like.
Yes, human-like.
Okay, so some of the evidence about this footage, because this is what really people iconically think of Bigfoot. This is where it comes from, is this Patterson-Gimlin footage. So their story has changed slightly over the years, but it's mostly about the horses' reactions and kind of the time frame of them getting off to like filming it.
That was my question too, because when was this, like the late 50s, early 60s, maybe, if that? Is that what you said the timeline was?
1967, October 20th.
Okay, so it was the late 60s. So camera equipment was pretty heavy back then.
That's true, and it is a little shaky at the beginning.
Yeah,
and
but I also find it hard to believe that, like, by the time he got off his horse, the other guy had his back. He was able to
get it all without the camera. Thing disappearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is a little hard to believe. Another thing is the film's development. So his brother-in-law, Al Datley, well, who cares, claims that he doesn't remember where he took the film to get developed or where he picked it up, which kind of doesn't matter.
I feel like that's something that would resonate with you, though.
Somewhat, but also it doesn't matter to me too much. I mean, I guess people are thinking if the film is doctored, but it's not doctored. It's just, if anything, somebody in a suit. So, like, I probably wouldn't remember where I got it developed, you know?
I mean,
but it's such an iconic film
but I
that you
feel like
might
also in that,
remember
like,
where you got that.
well,
from.
I feel like also back in those days, they also had like what you get receipts when you get film developed, right?
That's true. I mean, there'd probably be some sort of physical evidence of it. But I mean, would he keep the receipt around? I don't know.
I feel like I would remember, but that's
So also, former ringmaster and renowned costume manufacturer Philip Morris, he had the largest costume manufacturing company in the country, possibly the world, claimed that he sold Roger Patterson the suit seen in the film. Morris said he had sold an ape suit to Patterson via mail in 1976, thinking it was going to be used for what Patterson described as a prank. Morris started making gorilla suits in his basement and built the world's largest costume distribution. So
interesting.
He does say that you can tell at the buttocks of the creature that it does seem a little disjointed, like it's a flap over like a leg.
Well, yeah, because you pointed out that it's a little there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
It does look a little odd to me, which does point to costume. I do want to believe in this because I mean it's the epicenter origin of like Bigfoot almost evidence. So it's
okay.
You want to believe it. So the movement of the creature has been analyzed countless times over the years with varying conclusions. Some seeing the distinct muscle movements. People have really broken it down, trying to zoom in, enhance of this grainy footage. But it's inconclusive. Some people think they can see like hair patterns in breast and buttocks, while other people think those seem detached.
Boobs.
Boobs. So it's truly unknown whether people can't really tell from the footage. But people also theorize that the reason it's walking a little distinctively is because the costume has like clown-like feet for shoes, so that it has to pick up his feet really high to get the toes off the ground. So people are thinking if it is a costume, maybe that's why it has that particular gait. But I would really like to point out again that the ass looks weird to me. It looks like it floats above the legs and there's something off about it. So my evidence against it is dead ass, is what I would say.
Dead ass. So can I ask you a question before you carry on?
Of course you
so
can.
Is this this is quote unquote the first official evidence of Bigfoot or Sam's?
It's the most iconic. There were like maybe some other pictures. Actually, there are other picture evidence, I think, from back in the day, but this is the first like big film evidence. Yes.
Okay.
And kind of
and then so this is out after like the Yeti, the like from other. Okay.
Well, when we get to this is just more of like modern Western history of Bigfoot.
Okay.
Is more what we're touching on now.
Okay.
So also, Bernard the last name is a little confusing to me. A zoologist thought the creature in the Patterson film was a suited man. He objected that the subject's hair patterns was too uniform. The breasts were not like a primate, and much like me, the buttocks are insufficiently separated from the body. So this zoologist is on my thought process with the buttocks.
So
the creature's on film for about. Sorry.
Are you a non-believer?
I'm a believer of Bigfoot. I'm a little skeptical about the Patterson Gimlin film.
Okay.
So the creature was on film for less than a minute, and the iconic walk has become the basis for most people's connection with Bigfoot, as we were saying.
Yeah.
And it's specifically, if you want to take a look at the film, it's at the 3:52 mark when Patty turns around with a look of, what was it? Disgust and something. Contempt and disgust. Understandably so. Now, this is the modern Western culture, but I do want to touch on this now. Now, indigenous history. Okay. Many indigenous cultures across the North America continent include tales of tall, hairy, or mysterious creatures going back long before recorded history. Mm-hmm. So I did have some trouble finding some of this, and I do know a lot of Native American and indigenous cultures don't exactly like sharing their culture, and especially with the white man. Yeah. So I know there are a lot of other book sources, and I would like to dive into this a little deeper at some point, but here's what I have for you.
I don't think I've ever heard of like a Bigfoot or Sasquatch like with indigenous. I feel like I've heard more of like aliens and like, humanoids. Oh,
don't worry. Someday we're going to get into some of that too.
Can't wait.
And don't worry, because a lot of people think that Bigfoot is an alien. So
cool.
Right? So Bigfoot is typically associated with the northwest portions of the country and those indigenous tribes. Okay. Sasquatch gets its name from the Salish people, Salish is what it says here, calling it Sasqueets. But
sorry,
but Sasqueets. But when white people came in, they had pronunciation issues, and it turned into Sasquatch. Is essentially what happened.
I always said Sasqueefs.
The Sasqueets. Well, you're saying like say that again. I don't like the way you said it. That's just in poor taste and probably culturally disrespectful. The Algonquin to the north central region referred to a shape-shifting creature that shares some characteristics of Bigfoot. Sometimes it's tall and hairy, but that kind of seems to be its own thing.
Okay.
And also there are other tribes in the northern plains and just the Great Plains that have other hairy apparitions that appear to give warnings to man. The Raguru, I'm sorry about pronunciations.
What is
I will
that?
be butchering this. That's just a tall, hairy apparition that appears to man to give warnings of trouble in the future.
Oh, okay.
So there are some things that kind of look like Bigfoot that have some other maybe mystical things, but aren't necessarily a Bigfoot.
Okay.
So physical evidence from some native tribes. So early Native Americans have documentations of Sasquatch-looking creatures in their art. One of the most notable examples would be Painted Rock in California's Thule River Indian Reservation. So this is an ancient petroglyph that was created by the members of the Yakut as much as 1,000 years ago. We're going to take a quick pause and have a look at some of these cave drawings. Okay, we had a chance to look at the petroglyphs. Your thoughts? Does it look like Bigfoot to you?
No, I think my favorite one was the last one that you showed me that looked like a penguin with hair.
The child. It was the hairy man, the mother, and the child.
That was a child?
It was the child. It did look
The
a little
child.
penguinish. I will say the mother kind of
really
looked like
funny.
a dick missing a leg. And the hairy man, all of it kind of looks like an Adult Swim cartoon kind of nowadays.
Yeah, kind of.
Art has come full circle back around. So I will agree, it might be a bit of a reach that these petroglyphs are depicting. I mean, they might just be, they look like children's drawings of humans.
Kind of, yeah.
So
What if they're just their imaginary friends that they were just doodling?
that could be. We don't know. We may never know. So that's most of my physical evidence from indigenous tribes. But
I like that it was two. It was just the video evidence, and then it was the children's drawing.
Well, that's me just letting you know what got Sasquatch into the collective consciousness and pop culture mainstream. Those are why we think of them as we do today.
Okay.
So what is Bigfoot? Let's get into this a little bit. People's theories on him. Most assume that Bigfoot is an undiscovered primate, the missing link who has just managed to live in hiding in forests all these years, probably wanting to stay away from humans, you would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this, we have hairy humanoid creatures across the world correlating in different breeds and species, skunk ape, yeti, which make people believe this could be a missing link. This could just be an offset of human, some primate.
Okay.
Others take more so that it isn't like another species, that it is a missing link. And it was maybe a predecessor of man, like the... what's the one I'm looking for specifically? Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo erectus, kind of going back to our
Evolution, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually kind of what we're going to get into now. Well, also, let me quickly say the third theory that a lot of people have is that Bigfoot is an alien or an interdimensional being. So he has powers such as, traveling through space and time and invisibility.
Really?
That's actually a pretty popular theory.
The invisibility one?
Well, that the Bigfoot's an alien, and that's why it's hard to catch him because he's more advanced than us. And that's like, he's just a big primate creature, but they land in forests a lot.
Don't they say that he's really fast too? Like, not in terms of invisibility, but just speed? Like, he could...
You'd imagine. I mean, a big primate going through the forest, you'd imagine he can run around. So let's go back into evolution and kind of how people get into this mindset. So 2 million years ago, there were 3 different early humans: Australopithecus, Paranthropus, and the earliest known Homo erectus. I'm going to butcher all these names. I'm so sorry. And they all appear to live around the same time, just different forms of human. It's kind of unknown how much crossbreeding there was. And I'm also going to get into some other breeds that have recently been discovered, which are kind of more human-like, that were also living at the same time.
So let me ask you this. So is this around the time of Pangea?
I don't know.
So like how they
Yeah.
say that all the continents were fused together as one.
Right.
So if there's 3 different species or subspecies of this said Bigfoot, would that kind of support the theory as to why this creature, what have you, separated into like the different...
I think that's why some people maybe think there could be different species, yetis, skunk apes, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So let's break this down a little bit. Here are like the 5 main stages of man. So we have Dryopithecus. These are deemed to be the ancestors of both man and apes. They live in China and Africa, Europe, and India.
Okay.
When Dryopithecus was alive, the tropical lowlands which inhabited were densely forested, so members could predominantly herbivores. That was really hard to say. Ramapithecus. These were the first discovered in Shivalik, Prague, and Punjab, and later in Africa and Saudi Arabia. They lived in open grasslands. They have thickened tooth enamel, robust jaws, so kind of more thick caveman-y faces.
Yeah.
They used hands for food and defense, so they were a little more arm usage-y. Now we have Australopithecus. This dates back the first fossil in 1924 in South Africa. They were about 4 feet tall and weighed 60 to 80 pounds. You've maybe seen some of these on the History Channel as being like described as like the Hobbit humanoids. They were just little Hobbit people, little hairy Hobbit humanoids.
Interesting.
So now we get to Homo.
I feel like I don't hear much about that one.
I do because I watch the History Channel. They're always talking about the Hobbit people.
You do dive into this stuff.
Now we get into Homo erectus. There we have Homo erectus sapiens, Neanderthals, and Homo sapiens sapiens. So around the same time, we had Neanderthals, caveman, living around what would be predecessors for just what is now what man looks like.
Okay.
So Homo erectus, the first fossil of Homo erectus was found in 1891. These were named as Pithecanthropus erectus. These were considered the missing link between man and apes. Another was made in China. Let's skip ahead here. So, Homo sapiens neanderthalis. Homo erectus evolved into Homo sapiens. During this evolution, 2 subspecies of Homo sapiens were identified, Homo sapien neanderthal and Homo sapien sapiens. The cranial capacity of Neanderthal grew from 120 to 1600 cc's. Some small hands, axes, and tools have been discovered.
Okay.
The species of hominid could hunt big game such as mammoths. So they were organized, had communities, were kind of smart. Homo sapiens sapiens. The remains of Homo sapiens were first discovered in Europe. Blah 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 blah. I mean, it's common man. This is just this is us essentially. So other animal species that people think Bigfoot could be that maybe got away from us. You might have heard of this guy, Gigantopithecus. This is familiar. This is the giant orangutan, prehistoric orangutan that is believed to have gone extinct. Millions of years ago. Okay. But here's a picture of the guy right here. As you can see, it does look very Bigfootish.
Yeah, it does.
And it's one of these high contenders that people believe if there's like a missing link or something that could have escaped, it could be this extinct thing that looks a lot like people's descriptions of Bigfoot. So this was a big one that came out a few years ago that people thought could be the missing link, maybe a Bigfoot connection. Mm-hmm. I think it's just another breed of Homo sapien sapien that was kind of alive around the same time as Neanderthal. Okay. But we have Homo heidelbergensis. So this is an extinct species of archaic human which existed during the Middle Pliocene. During some stage. So it was around Homo erectus. So it was just another one that was around with Homo sapien, Homo neanderthal. But it was a little more human-esque than ape-like, but it's just another third kind of human that was alive during the same time. Oh, wow. And here's also just a lineage just to kind of give you a little visual here. Australopithecus, those little hobbit people, Homo erectus, the Neanderthals, and then us. So those were just a little shorter, little monkeyer faces, little caveman-ier than us.
Interesting.
Now,
I like how you turn your screen away so
I don't want you to see any of my evidence.
Okay.
Now.
Yes.
You say that you find it hard to believe that a primate could be hiding this whole time in the woods.
Not a primate, just whatever Bigfoot is.
That we would have found evidence.
Yeah, we would have found substantial evidence as opposed to just the footprints in the ground or whatever, someone's uncle, father saw like on a walk through the Rocky Mountains, like.
You don't bad talk my uncle.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the images that you showed me just now, like the orangutan-like creature, I feel like that's a little bit more believable. That
just something that we thought went extinct because we do have those.
No, yeah. So I feel like something.
Away.
Yeah, that's what I would believe.
So you believe more something that should be extinct as a missing link or another just creature we never saw.
Yeah.
Okay. So to kind of combat this and work off it, recent primate discoveries. In 2017. An orangutan was discovered in the Sumatran forest as a population of about 800. Unfortunately, it is immediately on the endangered species list. Right. All these new finds are kind of like, oh shit, we didn't even know this was here, and it's dying out.
Yeah.
And then as recently as 2020, a new species of monkey living in an extinct volcano in Myanmar has been discovered. Mount Papa langar monkeys. It's also endangered extremely small numbers, but these are just breeds that we just discovered within the last like 5 years, 2 different ones off the top of the dome.
Aww.
So isn't that kind of crazy?
It's crazy, but it's also sad.
And these are like big not like big monkeys, but like these are monkeys. These are like bigger things. It's not like a little bug or something. So,
yeah.
So we're still finding new primates and new things all the time.
Yeah.
Now we get a little nutty. Bigfoot, aliens, and interdimensional beings. So
okay, so this is what you were touching base on a little bit earlier.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So there are many people that theorize Bigfoot may be an alien due to a large number of UFO reportings and that coincide with Bigfoot sightings, as well as sightings of what are described as glowing orbs in the wilderness around Bigfoot sightings as well.
Okay.
So this is a theory that's really been going back, let's say, since like 1973 here. It's been gaining attention because people first started reporting the orange orbs. They were fast-moving lights that many think were alien in nature, but they were also associated with highly frequently Bigfoot-sighted areas.
So you would see these orange lights and bam, there's a Bigfoot. Basically,
not necessarily coinciding the same time, but let's say like within a month span, like different tourists would see these glowing orbs and different people would be seeing Bigfoot in high volume within the same kind of time. So it's just a weird correlation of different kinds of weird sightings at the same time.
Ooh.
So going back even further to 1888, a cattleman told of an encounter that he had with Native Americans in Humboldt County, California. So kind of the area where this is mostly taking place.
Yeah.
They took him to a cave where he saw a large humanoid creature covered in long, shiny black hair. The creature had no neck and was sitting cross-legged in the cave. One of the
sorry, that just depicted like a very interesting image in my brain.
Very humanoid, very chill, just a chill guy. So one indigenous person told him that 3 of these crazy bears, is what they referred to him as, had been cast out of a small moon that had dropped from the sky and landed on Earth. The moon then rose back into the air. So it's thought that those crazy bears maybe were really just aliens, and the moon was just a spacecraft. So this is a story of alien landing Bigfoot in 1888.
Whoa.
So now we're moving forward about 100 years now to 1973. We have a story of Mrs. Rafa Hatefield. Mrs. Rafa Hatefield. She and her 13-year-old son are sleeping in a trailer in Cincinnati. On the morning of October 21st, she wakes at 2:30 a.m. She was thirsty and noticed a strange light outside of her trailer in the parking lot.
Okay.
She looks out of the window and she sees a cone of light with a humanoid shape in it, about 7 feet tall, she's saying.
So a cone of light, and then you see this humanoid 7 feet tall thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So then she spots this.
So it's like a spotlight of sorts, would you say?
Or a beam, maybe tractor beam coming in and out, just the thing getting there.
Okay.
So she spots a grayish ape-like creature now with an angled snout, no neck, and a sizable waist, walks out of the beam, and about 5 minutes later, both the ape and the UFO disappear.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
She sure she wasn't hallucinating at this point?
Nope, she ain't. So another encounter happened a few days later on October 25th, 1973, when a group of farmers in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, so we're going to the other side of the country here, caught sight of a dome-shaped UFO that was momentarily illuminating and about 100 feet in diameter. Locals drove toward it, and they saw a pair of gigantic creatures covered in thick hair and luminescent green eyes, long arms.
Luminescent green
with
eyes.
arms that dangled down to their knees. The farmer's son fired a gun at the creatures, and he says he shot one. At which point the creature raised its hand in the air, and then he and the creature, the UFO, disappeared.
Well, see you later.
Oh, let me rephrase that. Never mind. It looks like the 2 Bigfoot he raised his hand and they ran into the woods.
Oh.
Ow!
I pictured it as like hand up, like, all right, I should go now.
Yeah, or it was more of a ow, he got shot in the ribs kind of thing.
Did they say where he shot it at?
Nah, they probably did, but I do pretty loose research here and I'm not crazy. So in August 1976, after a series of UFO sightings around British Columbia, Canada, several men say they and their children saw a hairy ape-like creature 6 to 7 feet tall walking around the mountainside. Mm-hmm. They also found clumps of hair that had been sent to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for identification. The laboratory analysis confirmed that it was primate hair, but could not identify what kind.
Okay.
And this is something actually...
So,
yes,
never mind, go ahead.
No, that's all. No, go on, please.
Okay. I feel like you're giving me so much judgment as I should be giving you.
No.
So they were able to get a sample of this hair.
Yes.
They said it's some sort of human-like creature?
Primate creature, but
creature?
they couldn't identify what primate. And
So
this is
maybe
something
it
I've
could be along the lines of a primate that has not been discovered yet. Correct?
You mean like a Bigfoot?
Not like a Bigfoot, but like...
Isn't that what he is? So
we don't know what he is, though.
I've seen a lot of this on History Channel. They take clumps of brown or reddish hair. They take it in. Sometimes it's deer. I'm not going to lie. A lot of times it's like, that's a bear. But
it's a bear.
But a lot of times they're like, well, it seems to be primate in nature, but we can't identify what animal it is. And they're also starting to do a new thing, which is environmental DNA. And you can now take just like dirt, or the organic material from around, like in the forest, and it can pick up any traces of DNA that have come in contact with that.
Wait, for real?
Yep. That's a new thing that exists
now.
So
they could take essentially like, they find a Bigfoot footprint. They could take DNA essentially
you could
from
just take
that.
a little piece of that and test it, because you can do that with just animals. They can take a piece of dirt and be like, oh, a fox has been here, a rabbit. And it's environmental DNA is a new piece of technology that's being used to look for Bigfoot.
Ooh.
Other many things I've seen. I mean, I've watched a lot of Bigfoot specials in my research. And this is, again, we're just doing a light dive on this. We're probably going to deep dive later. But just want to let people know what Bigfoot is, if you don't somehow, and how it came into pop culture, and as you know it. So with my evidence, do you have any leading theories of what you think Bigfoot could be off of my
So
evidence?
I think I'm more inclined to believe that it is something that we have not discovered yet. So like a primate of sorts. Like you said, there are animals that we believe are extinct, and somehow we find, a population of, like you said, under 800. Are we going to dive in? This is a little side note. Are we going to dive into all the missing people?
We
like
can.
in the Rockies and then
we sure can.
The Ozarks. And
some believe that has something to do with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Others don't. Now, I will say there is actually a lot of material out there for alien Bigfoot connections.
I don't think I believe the alien Bigfoot.
It also gets into...
I feel like that's a stretch, kind of.
The bigger theory is interdimensional being, that he's not necessarily from a planet. He's from a dimension. And he's here to hang out, brother. No, you don't buy that one?
No.
Now, out of curiosity, are there any other cryptid creatures you believe in having more believability than Bigfoot? Because to me, Bigfoot is the most believable cryptid
I feel like I believe
creature.
the Loch Ness Monster.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like something that has been dwelling in the ocean, something that has been dwelling in the ocean and hasn't been discovered, because, there
dwelling in a loch, dwelling in a lake.
In a lake.
Which has had multiple scans and sonar scans with no caves detected.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not crazy.
But you know what I mean? Like the creatures in the depths of the ocean and depths of bodies of water, there is a huge percentage of the ocean that we have not discovered yet. I feel like there could be something thriving there, something that is, a predator of sorts, and, it doesn't have, it isn't.
Oh, I follow.
Words.
TikTok is slowly making me a believer of Megalodon, the giant shark. So,
I believe the Megalodon too.
I think it could be out there. So this is just my soft scratch into Bigfoot. I wanted to welcome everyone to I'm Not Crazy. We might do some other big topics before we start deep diving in, just to kind of get people familiar. But welcome to I'm Not Crazy. And don't worry, we believe you.
Bye. Bye.